Hello guys, so we are in the next episode. So we are continuing the philosophy of Plato. We're studying Platonic philosophy in parallel to the Vedantic worldview, right? So that we can understand both Eastern and Western philosophy at the same time. So in the last episode, we talked about the division between this world and the other world in Platonic view. So this world is the world that appears as a phenomena to our sensory organs, to the mind, which is imperfect, transitory, and the other world is the perfect counterpart of this world. It's the source through which this world has been derived from. And we also covered about the theory of form, and we said that any kind of form that we see in this world is imperfect and a simulation, a second-hand copy of the real world, which is the other world, the world of form, right? So now today we're going to be expanding that concept, and specifically we're going to be talking about how can we understand the forms, what is knowledge, and how does it differ from opinion. And parallelly we're going to be talking about what is vidya and avidya in Eastern psychology. And also we're going to be covering the nature of this world versus other world, why there should be this duality, right? Is it apparent or a real duality? Or is there any way to reconcile this duality and to come up with a non-dual philosophy, right? That's another question that we can address. So let's first start with a knowledge versus opinion thing. So clearly, as I mentioned in the last video, when we are talking about Plato, we have to either think in terms of this world, which is the Heraclitean world of flux, or the other world, which is the permanence world, which is permanent, one, and whose existence cannot be divided, which exists throughout the time, which is eternal. So that's why knowledge belongs to the other world, according to Plato, but the opinion belongs to this world. Let us take example of this marker. So the form, structure, and the marker, the being of the marker as a whole, in this world is imperfect. And according to Plato, it is a copy of a perfect marker that should exist in the perfect world, which is the other world. So any kind of knowledge that we can derive from this worldly marker is imperfect for Plato. And another way to look at it is, we can think about this marker from multiple point of views or multiple perspectives. I can give one opinion about this marker. Somebody called X can give another opinion. Somebody Y can give another opinion. So there can be infinite opinions, and all of these opinions are imperfect. But the perfect marker that exists in the perfect world, the knowledge about that marker is perfect. To clarify it, we can again go back to the concept of triangle. As we suggested, all of the triangles that we can see in this world is imperfect. Although it seems perfect, but if we have a high resolution device and if we look at it meticulously, we can find that, it's a cheap copy of a perfect mathematical abstract triangle. It's not perfect. And you can find as much triangle in this world, infinite, could be like infinite triangles, but all of those imperfect triangles are like opinions. But the perfect triangles that exist in the other world, in the world of the form, is the knowledge. So that's why Plato suggests that mathematics is the pure knowledge. And this world, which is an imperfect expression of that abstract mathematics, this is just like opinion. And parallelly, the concept is also found in Vedantic worldview. So the knowledge in Platonic world is vidya in Vedanta. However, there's a very nuanced difference between knowledge of Plato versus vidya in terms of Vedanta. Let me clarify that difference. So in the metaphysics of Plato, the perfect world seems to be a collection of forms. It has perfect marker, it has perfect bell, it has perfect this whiteboard, perfect door, perfect camera, perfect man, right? Each particular things, these particular imperfect things that exist in this world has its perfect counterpart in the world of the forms, pure forms. However, in Vedanta, these differentiated forms may not exist. The reality exists as undifferentiated, dynamic Brahma. Yes, every kind of form can appear out of it. It has that potential, but it just exists as a potential field, just like a quantum field. The differentiation happens only when we see the world through our senses. So see, there's a difference, a nuanced difference between Platonic world and Vedantic world from that perspective. Although I'm generalizing the Vedantic view here and talking from the perspective of Advaita Vedanta, and there are some other schools within the Vedantic category, some of which are dualistic schools, and those dualistic schools may agree with Plato. They would suggest that, okay, there's a spiritual world where we can find a first-hand copy of each one of these things, first-hand copy of each one of these souls which exist in this physical universe. So that's why I'm saying there's similarity as well as differences as well. The similarity is that this world is common, imperfect in both of these metaphysics, and the other world is perfect in both cases. So some of the people, especially in Vedantic school, may suggest me that, Mr. Anmol, you are misinterpreting Vedanta. Actually, in Vedantic terms, there's no other world. There's only this world. This world itself is a Brahma. Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya. What you are seeing is just an apparent reality. This is a little bit complicated topic. That's why I plan to use this illustration to make you understand this concept. According to some scholars in the Vedantic school, the Brahma is the only sole reality that there exists. Nothing else, just Brahma. Now the question is, if Brahma is one, why does it appear as multiple things in the world, multiple forms in multiple nama and rupas? And the answer to that question is, just like there is one sun in the sky, one moon in the sky, but you can see countless number of reflections of that original sun in lakes or ponds, right? There's one sun, but from in the pond that is present in the US, we can see one reflection in a pond that is present in the Denmark. There's another reflection pond that is present in Nepal, another reflection, so and so. So that means the apparent reality is actually the reflections of the one Brahman, which is actually the ultimate reality. So there's no, two worlds. Actually, the apparent world is just a shadow. Just like when I put this marker into the water, I can see that the marker is bending because of the refraction. In reality, the marker is not bending, it's just the rays that changes the angle, and it's an optical illusion. Likewise, the apparent world is an illusion. It's created out of Maya. The apparent duality between this world and that world is just because the sensory organs can only intake data or information. It cannot intake the Brahman. For example, in the reflection, you can see exactly the same sun, but actually it's not the real sun. It's the rays coming out of the sun, which has been reflected. Just like that. It's not Brahman that we see. It's a modification of Brahman. When the Brahman is filtered by our mind, it becomes the world. When one Brahman goes through the Maya, it splits into the multitudinal names and forms. So why there is consistency? Somebody may ask, if that's the case, how do you explain the physical laws of gravity, electrostatic forces, right? The physical laws are there, and no matter whether you are in this part of the world or that part of the world, those laws are consistent. Why is that happening? Because that's the inherent property of the Maya. The dynamism of the field has inherent laws that modifies it accordingly. That's why to our senses they always appear the same, consistently. So the whole game is, the one reality is trying to experience it from the multiple point of views, infinite point of views. That's the Vedantic school of thought or metaphysics. However, Platonic worldview is comparatively naive because there's no ultimately one reality in Platonic metaphysics. Plato has a divided line that separates this world versus the other world. The other world is the world of the form, and this world is the Heraclitean world. So for Plato, knowledge or pure love does not exist in this world, because this is imperfect world. How can knowledge and love exist here? Only relative relationships exist, not the true love. Only relative knowledge, which is opinion, exists, and there can be infinite number of opinions. There's no way that you can discriminate one opinion versus another and say that this opinion is more accurate than this. Both are relative. Just like Parmenides said, there can be only one knowledge, only one truth, only one existence, and if it exists, it should exist eternally. That's why the knowledge is eternal, and opinion is not eternal. Opinion is temporary. Today I may have one opinion, tomorrow I may change that. I'm constantly growing, so I may change my opinion. It's relative, right? So there's another way of seeing this. In Vedantic school, there are two terminologies. One is called para and another is called apara. Para means the otherworldly, that which transcends the apparent reality and belongs to the ultimate reality, the Brahman, the oneness, the non-dual reality. And apara means when that non-dual reality is filtered through our mind, through our senses, then it appears as a multitudinal appearances, nama and rupas. This phenomenon is known as Maya. So, you see, there are some similarities, although there are some differences. And it's always useful to understand these concepts parallelly. People say that, Western philosophy is completely different from Eastern. But when I study the Western philosophy, there's only one difference I found, and that's Aristotle. Aristotle come up with a Western sort of a logic which differ from Eastern views. And also, the Western philosophy, as it evolves, it becomes influenced by science, logic, and it only gives ultimate value to intellect, either to intellect or to the sensory information, experiences. So that's why there will come two different schools, one called as rationalist, which values the cognitive faculty of the mind, and another called empiricist, who suggests that only the experiences are true. There's nothing intrinsically given to us which is the source of the knowledge. And later on, Immanuel Kant synthesizes these both school of thoughts and comes up with the transcendental philosophy. We're not going to go into that right now. So the bottom line for this session is that knowledge is one, belongs to the other world, the world of form. Opinions can be many, and it belongs to this world. Knowledge is perfect, opinion is imperfect. So virtues, honesty, they are not opinion. Justice, then they cannot be opinion. It must belong to the knowledge. One thing that I forgot to cover is Plato believes that it is possible to come to terms with knowledge. It is possible to grasp knowledge. It is possible to understand the world of form by using the intellect, by using our cognitive faculty. Why? As I suggested in the last lecture, mathematics is the connecting bridge. Because our mind inherently, intrinsically can understand mathematics. That is a priori. So that's why using our rational mind, using our intellect, we can come to terms with knowledge, according to Plato. Nevertheless, in Vedantic perspective, it is not possible to understand Brahman by using intellect, because in Vedanta, intellect is also the part of the Maya, part of the mind. So it is not possible to deduce Brahman into the logic, into the forms, into theories. Although you may try, it's not possible. That's why in Vedanta they use metaphors, they use allegory to point out the truth. And they suggest that the device that you are using to point out the truth is only useful until you see the truth. Once you see the truth, you have to throw it away. The boat is only useful until you cross the river. Just like that. The purpose of this conversation or this lecture or this satsang is only to make you see the reality. And when I'm saying seeing, it's not the conventional seeing by the sensory organs, because the sensory organs by definition cannot see. The very function of these sensory organs is to filter the Brahman into non-Brahman or this illusory apparent reality. So according to Vedanta, there should be a direct perception which is independent of the sensory organs. So that's why meditation is suggested. And in meditation, there's no function of sensory organs. In fact, your sensory organs should relax. For this session, this would be enough. In the next session, we'll be going into deep philosophies. We'll be covering more interesting questions, and we'll also include more Western philosophers and try to understand them in parallel to the Eastern psychology.